time for the second race of the weekend for the Euroformula Open Championship. It's the fourth meeting of the season, and it comes from the Hungaroring. We are in the Godolo Hills, east of the chain bridge, which separates the old and new towns of Buda and Pest. And we are on the newer, more urban side of the city, in the countryside, enjoying the sunshine that has crept away a little bit this morning, even some rain falling as we made our way into the circuit this morning. But we've got another 17-lap race to come, or 30 minutes, whichever comes first. And it's the first of our two reverse grid races. And in lieu of finishing in 6th position yesterday, Jesse Carrasquillo starts from reverse grid pole and is on the hunt for a third victory of 2026. You can see track temperature 29 degrees, considerably cooler than it was yesterday. Well into the 50s we were in yesterday with the sun baking down on the circuit. There is yesterday's race winner for the first time in 2026, Everett Stack, the blue and black Motorpark car, making his way out onto the circuit for these reconnaissance laps, and has a big job to do from 6th position today. It was all about the start yesterday as Stack managed to beat Javier Herrera off the line, and the young Mexican driver somewhat dejected as he was basically forced to stand on the podium as the rookie winner, but lost his actual podium finish after a time penalty for making contact with Rui Hengye, who was promoted to 2nd place. So Stack making his way to the grid. Pirelli tyres not getting so much strain today, potentially with these cooler conditions, but still an awful lot of work for the drivers to do over the course of 17 laps of racing. Chris Stevens and George Morgan up here in the commentary box. And George, Everett Stack finally getting the monkey off his back yesterday.
But we continue the run of pole sitters to race winners. Lights to flag continues once again. 5th different race winner this season as well, Chris, which is absolutely sensational. So the numbers keep on rising, and we're only now breaking into the halfway point of the championship. Still got a long way to go. Obviously, we've still got Paul Ricard coming up after this round, and we've got Hockenheim, Monza, Barcelona then for the grand finale, returning as our grand finale this season.
This is interesting, George. The race has been declared wet because there are drops of rain being reported at the final corner, which is obviously not too far away from our position on the start and finish straight, and in fact where Everett Stack is making his way through now. So Marshall's reporting drops of rain at that point on the circuit. I can only assume incredibly light, but the wet Pirelli tyre remains an option for the teams. I don't think they'll take it just yet, though. No,
because if it's only currently falling, I am seeing a couple of raised umbrellas now here on the straight, so I think the rain is now steadily bringing its way onto that main straight right now. But obviously this does essentially mean that we're going to be experiencing damp conditions at only one part of the circuit. It doesn't make sense to embrace the wet tyres in sectors 1 and 2 if you're only getting wet weather in sector 3. But what this does mean, potentially, if the rain does continue to come across, we could see the application of pit stops, which would be fascinating.
Yeah, obviously not a regular thing, and the pit stops do take their time here because we don't have any, quick wheel guns or anything to do pit stops in just a few seconds.
Then for the real start, obviously more. As you did in Misano, basically.
It's raining more now.
But yeah, now it's for sure. The more it rains, the slippier it gets.
So they're talking about rain down on the grid as well. I think talking through the start procedure there as well for Javier Herrera. It was obviously a difficult start for the Mexican yesterday. He started on pole position, but was 2nd by the time they got to the first corner. And Herrera's had a few tough starts so far this season. Got it all together in Misano, and so just reminding him, do what you did in Misano. But of course, after falling down to 4th position, goes from the 2nd row of the grid for this race. 3rd position for Javier Herrera, just behind Diego de la Torre and Jesse Carrasquillo. There we can see the wet Pirelli tyres on standby in case they are needed. A couple more umbrellas just being propped up across the grid, and annoyingly, all the fans we can see are all under shelter, so they're not a good reference point for us to know whether the rain is at their particular point on the straight. If I look out the window and take a look at the track, it is absolutely bone dry. but we will continue to monitor that as the race progresses.
Yeah, Jose Carrasquedo making his feelings well and truly known. He is focusing straight on turn 1, dashing down the straight. Of course, he needs to take every opportunity because this man will be breathing down his neck. Diego Della Torre chasing his first win of the season. Arrived into the weekend second in the championship, 65 points behind Rui Hengye. He's now down in third because Everett Stack, owing to his win yesterday, now moves into second ahead of Diego Della Torre. Javier Herrera, who was receiving instructions not too long ago. I'm going to correct my earlier statement, Chris. Of course, he started on pole position. I accidentally put 1 in the column for Everett Stack, though I will say
you
this.
did what I did yesterday.
I did what you did yesterday, but what I will say, every driver that started on the front row at the start of the first race of a weekend has gone on to win the race. So there we go.
Rui Hengye was looking a little dejected there. You can see the raindrops on the front of the
clouds
chassis.
are shimmying along, aren't they?
Definitely it's going to be a concern. Maybe just more psychological rain at this point. But of course, if it does intensify, then it will start to make life very difficult for these drivers. So, rain coming down towards the start of the race. Lorenzo Castillo has a little bit of work to do from 7th on the grid in the number 10 machine, the yellow wing-tipped machine. Thankfully not anywhere near Jose Carrasquedo on the grid. Two similar distinguishing features on that. It's the luminescent yellow on Carrasquedo's car. Victor Dobransky a little bit further down in the pack, and Chalo Han, the should we say invitational driver, is the rotating drivers in their 4th BVM car, as it has been throughout the season. The son of Marcello Han, the GT3 racer in the International GT Open.
Kind of slippery, okay? I don't think it's going to rain, okay? But we'll be ready anyway because we don't have radio, okay?
Paul Terenancy giving the information there to Divi Nandan, and they don't have radio.
So when you start, remember, if you can overtake the car on front, okay, maintain your race line, okay? Don't try to defend in the first corner because you have in the race line, okay? No entry in the deep.
Pablo Blanco there from Neri Autosport. Does a lot of work with DriveX as well, does Pablo. But guesting with Neri Autosport in various rounds of the Euroformula Open Championship. So no umbrellas in those stands. One umbrella, actually. Let's take a look back at what happened yesterday. Javier Herrera slightly slow off the line, and that allowed the Virginian Everett Stack to challenge him into the first corner. Rui Hengye making it 3 abreast into the first corner as he went down the inside as well, but it was Stack who came out on top ahead of the championship leader. Cars made their way into turn 2, and Diego Della Torre getting very sideways coming into turn 2, and a spin for Jan Koller arriving backwards. The Czech driver, Divi Nandan, dipping 2 wheels into the grass. It was a very strong start from the Indian driver. It was the lead BVM car at one point, but it all came undone rather quickly. First of all, Famolaro, his teammate, finding his way through. Battle between Carrasquedo and Lorenzo Castillo. They were battling for 6th position to take the reverse grid pole for race 2. Everett Stack untroubled at the head of the field after taking the lead of the race, and he took his first victory of 2026. This is what it's done to the championship standings then going into the second race of the weekend. 65 points remains Rui Hengye's advantage, but now with Everett Stack in second place. Diego Della Torre falling to 3rd position in the championship standings, now 73 points back from the lead. Race 2 about to get underway for the Euroformula Open Championship. 17 laps of racing. Here is how they line up for this reverse grid race. Jose Carrasquedo starts on pole position in the number 27 from Team Motorpark. Diego Della Torre, 3rd in the championship, starts alongside him. Javier Herrera, after his 5-second time penalty yesterday, starts in 3rd position alongside his teammate Alessandro Famolaro, who inherited the podium. Rui Hengye starts alongside race 1 winner Everett Stack on the 3rd row of the grid. Then we get into more of the rookie contingent. Lorenzo Castillo starting alongside Victor Dobransky in 7th and 8th position, respectively. The rookie Chalo Han for BVM Racing starts in 9th alongside the sister BVM car of Divi Nandan. Towards the rear of the field, Aaron Ferrazzano for Neri Autosport, and Jan Koller after his spin at turn 2 yesterday. The cars now make their way onto the formation lap. They'll be able to get a sense of how much grip is out there with the rain starting to fall here. This could turn into a very tricky race for these young drivers.
Key to note, though, as I mentioned earlier on, folks, the teams are very well aware. Of course, we heard from BBM that they don't expect the forecast to remain damp right through the course of the race, but they are ready, they said, with the wheel guns, if necessary, to change tyres. But even some teams having to adapt with no radio, meaning they're going to have to signal using the pit boards across the circuit to obviously, let the drivers know of the situation. So, this is going to be a real test now, especially for these young drivers that are looking to move ahead into the next step of their careers. Obviously, with FIA Formula 3 being next on the horizon, maybe even FIA Formula 2. Of course, many of them now going into Indy NXT. Of course, we witnessed Timo Kaharczyk go on to take the championship lead in Indy next. He is the reigning Euroformula Open champion after winning it last season, beating Yevon David to the punch, who also featured on the podium yesterday at Silverstone during British Grand Prix weekend. Just goes to show how imperative the Euroformula is in terms of determining and pushing young drivers through the next steps of their career. But Jesse Carrasquillo back on top, chasing a third win of the season, and he's well placed to do so.
It's been great to see the Euroformula alumnus going on to great success in other championships. Noel Leon winning several races in Formula 2 this year as well.
We forgot to mention as well, because I know we were kicking ourselves yesterday, 4th of July victory for Everett Stack.
Yes, of course. The salute celebration for the Virginian. So, yeah, happy 4th of July to all those who celebrate it. Coming from the Englishman. Cars coming up to the end of the formation lap. No obvious lack of grip at the moment. It could just be that the rain is just a passing shower, but definitely something to keep an eye out on. We saw the raindrops on the cars. I'm sure will be streaming off the visors a little bit, making it seem a little bit more worse than it is from the perspective inside the cockpit. A few burnouts to get some heat into the Pirelli rubber. As we say, considerably cooler today than it was yesterday. Track temperature about 20 degrees cooler than it was when we went racing yesterday afternoon. Jesse Carrasquillo, as he did in Misano, starting from the front of the grid for these reverse grid races. He lines up second on the grid for the race tomorrow, later on today as well, the final race of the weekend. So he has another opportunity here to make it back-to-back Sunday victories, as he did in Misano.
All standing on the track there as the rain droplets topple ever so slightly. Jan Koller moving to the back, will be looking for a better run than yesterday after suffering the spin. Roman Sanek in his corner. There's Giuseppe Mazzotti of BBM. Chris, take it away.
5 lights on, engine notes rise. We're racing for the second time this weekend, and the car struggled to get off the line with the lack of grip, and it's Diego Della Torre who has moved straight into the lead of the race after a difficult getaway there for Jesse Carrasquillo. So Della Torre hunting for his first victory, lead into the first corner, and that looks like Rui Hengye has already made his way up into third position. Everett Stack in fourth. The cars make their way very safely through the first corner. No bumping, no shuffling, and side by side for the lead now as Carrasquillo tries to go around the outside, and that's to make way for Rui Hengye, who locks up massively going into turn 2. Very good heads-up driving there from Jesse Carrasquillo, but it cost him a place.
But somehow Rui Hengye managed to get the rotation coming out of turn 2, managing to solidify his place now inside the top 3, and is now looking to shuffle after Diego Della Torre, who currently leads this race. So Carrasquillo down in third after sacrificing pole and the lead to Della Torre, who had a brilliant start to combat the bad start that Carrasquillo laid down. Yesterday's race winner Everett Stack looking to stack his deck coming into the chicane. A near accident there further back. A lock-up there, I think, for Cello Han, who just got a little bit tied up heading into turn 6.
Through the tight, twisty middle sector for the first time, Diego Della Torre, the green wing-tipped car, the Mexican driver, leads the field through the middle sector for the first time of asking. We go back on board with Stack, who's got a great view of the 3 cars in front of him. It's Jesse Carrasquillo, the car directly in front of him, and started to fall back from Enzo Ye, who must have a massive flat spot on his front left tyre. Doesn't seem to be holding him up too much, though, as he's straight onto the back of Della Torre. Through the penultimate corner for the first time. A long, long left-hander, followed by a long, long right-hander as well. This is where the rain has been reported by the marshals. Through there for the first time at speed to complete the first lap of racing. And across the start-finish line, Diego Della Torre leads by 0.3 of a second over Rui Hengye, who's made up a few places so far on this lap, and now challenging for the lead with Jesse Carrasquillo in third position, ahead of Everett Stack. Victor Dobransky trying to make a move down the inside there on Divi Nandan, nothing doing.
Coming down towards turn 2, Della Torre, the Mexican ahead of Rui Hengye, who's all over the back. Whatever happened with that lockup, if there's a flat spot or not, it has not harmed the Taipei driver who leads this championship, coming in off the back of a sequence of 5 wins in the first 6 starts in the championship. And now looking for his first win since race 3 back at Spa. Of course, it was a winless run back at Misano. Everett Stack only claiming his first yesterday, and currently haunting the back of Jose Carrasquedo, who has somewhat recovered after his dodgy start of this race. Obviously didn't get off the line as quickly as he would have liked, ending up forfeiting to Diego de la Torre, and then by consequence Rui Hengye also sticking his nose on the run out of turn 1 through towards turn 2, as we now watch Lorenzo Castillo fly through turn 8. There's de la Torre, followed by Carrasquedo, Stack, Herrera, obviously up there for BVM Racing, looking to give Giuseppe Vazzotti something to shout and scream about. They've had a good reason to celebrate in recent times owing to Timek Kaharczyk, but now looking with new faces and in future races ahead to try and deliver something for the Italian outfit.
Drops of rain on the onboard camera here for Everett Stack, and Carrasquedo sort of woken up there by Stack, as I think he saw him move to the inside and then retaliated to that one in his defence at turn number 12. They don't love that, but so long as they don't come to blows, might get away with it. End of lap number 2. Fastest lap of the race being done by Everett Stack, though, so he's the quickest of the leading pack at the moment. 38.2 for the American driver, and that's a couple of seconds off of the pace they were running yesterday, so they are struggling for grip out there. Yeah,
it certainly seems to be the case, and I think that may have been what really led to Rui Hengye having the lockup that he did heading in through turn 2. Obviously there are damp patches on the racetrack, especially in that final sector, and naturally they'll pick up some of that water and it will remain on the top of the tyres, because of course it takes a little while before it really starts to heat up. They'll be hoping that they're forming a drying line as they make their way around this circuit, so fingers crossed they can make that happen inside the final sector, just so that their pace doesn't get compromised, essentially. We're now watching them make their way through out of turn 7. There is of course Famularo, who is certainly here racing on behalf of the nation of Venezuela, a country that, of course, he's embracing as his home. We observed a minute's silence yesterday, followed by the Venezuelan national anthem, owing to the crisis over the Venezuelan earthquakes, where many lives were lost. And, of course, our best wishes are to that nation of Venezuela, and, of course, with Alessandro Famularo, who is representing them proud, especially after landing that podium yesterday.
So de la Torre leads them through the final corner once again. 2 seconds covering the top 6 cars at the moment, George. So very little separating these drivers. Take a look inside the motor park camp. Friends and family watching on nervously, I'm sure. Diego de la Torre going defensive though, because Rui Hengye in the slipstream, challenging to the outside. Dive on the inside from Everett Stack as well to try and take 3rd position. In the end, they all exit the corner in the same order they came into it in, but potentially a bit closer than they were before. Everett Stack with a run towards turn 2, and Carrasquedo still defending to the inside, but still Carrasquedo, the Mexican driver, hanging on to the place.
Yeah, Everett Stack here really is starting to starting to ride on that rear wing of Carrasquedo, getting closer and closer all the time and dragging Javier Herrera along for the ride. Obviously hoping that he can grab a couple of places. They've got BVM line astern from piece 5, 6 and 7, with Divi Nandan down in 7th place, but starting to creep away from the back of Famularo, who was just trying to observe the back of Herrera, just patiently waiting if any opportunity should arise. But Herrera, who has enjoyed already a victory at the top of the shop, much like Famularo, 2 different BVM winners this season, which I think by a certain degree is a first for the team through the course of one campaign. They've done a tremendous job in terms of rising in the ranks and really taking it to Motor Park Team over the last couple of years, which has certainly been special to watch. We've certainly seen them come a long way from the era of Francesco Simonazzi trying to fight their battles on circuit, but now with some vibrant names coming through the fold, the Italian team proving now with more cars representing their outfits here at every GT Sport organisation weekend. They're certainly here for the big points. We're riding on board with Everett Stack as they now exit out of the final corner at turn 14. It'll be, this time, approximately 13 laps to go.
What's that on the right-hand side that Everett Stack was adjusting? Took his hand off the wheel there. I wasn't aware there were any levers or paddles inside the cockpit that weren't on the steering wheel.
Active brake bias, perhaps?
I'll have to go down and check. That's going to be an interesting conversation to have later on. Speaking of interesting conversations, actually, I know there are talks with other teams to be joining the grid, potentially for 2027, so watch this space. Could be some news on that in the coming months, expanding the grid in the Euroformula Open Championship and hopefully restore the glory of this great series where the drivers continue to praise the efforts of the teams and the machinery available, a fantastic learning platform. We do have other sort of regional Formula 3 championships racing in Budapest here this weekend. This is the fastest of the lot of them, the closest to the sort of global FIA Formula 3 championship and the one that prepares them the best.
Definitely does. Oh, Everett Stack running very wide of the mark as they make their way down the straight towards turn 12. And the Virginian very nearly treading into a territory he did not want to venture into. And it does mean now he's disconnected a little, somewhat. Divi Nandan dipping into the gravel as well. That's certainly not a place he wants to be either. And he will forfeit a little bit of additional time, was already struggling to stay within a second. And as they cross the stripe, dare I say, he may have now found himself beyond the scope of a second as they cross the line with 12 laps to go. It's still Diego Della Torre chasing that first win of the season. And this would be our 6th different winner if he does land it. So it'd be great to see as Nandan now comes under pressure, obviously falling foul after the little error earlier on. A switch back here from Victor Dobransky in the number 7 motor park car. It's going to be wheel to wheel, the up and under not quite working out for Dobransky, but he might find something coming through turn 2. Looking to switch to the inside, covered off by Nandan straight away. And now it looks like Castillo will look to take on his motor park teammate outside looking in, coming through out of turn 3, can't quite find the angle as now they rise up through towards turn 4. Fastest lap for Diego Della Torre last time round.
Extends the gap to just under 7/10 of a second. We're going to see that moment for Everett Stack once again. Does he have a little sideways moment? No, just sort of understeers wide on the exit of the corner. Oh, no, he does have a little swapper there. It's very subtle, but just a slight correction on the steering wheel. And we could see more moments like that if the rain does continue to fall. So Diego Della Torre trying to extend the gap, 1:37.5 for the Mexican driver last time around to try and open up the gap slightly, but we are still running a good couple of seconds slower than we were yesterday, so grip at a premium it would seem. And although Della Torre was fastest by a 10.5 last time around, he cannot shake Enzo yet from his back. The championship leader will continue to pile on the pressure for these remaining 12 laps, I'm sure, 11 when they come across the stripe. Jesse Carrasquillo trying to undo some of the damage from that difficult first lap. Real heads-up driving from Carrasquillo into turn 2 on that opening lap. Saw that Enzo had a massive lockup and knew that if he tried to turn into the corner that there was going to be a quite hefty collision. Everett Stack with the slipstream. Carrasquillo defends to the inside. Very nicely done. Doesn't walk it too wide, but an up and under here from Everett Stack, so draws an overlap on the exit of the corner. He will have the wrong line when they get towards turn 2, but you can make the outside line here work. So to the outside, a braking and gets the move done around the outside. Everett Stack now up into 3rd position, consolidates the move into turn 3. Carrasquillo down to 4th now.
Great recovery after the little moment at turn 11 there from Everett Stack, and now sees himself return to the podium places, fresh after winning yesterday. So showing that the pace is still very much with him. So we now ride on board here with Javier Herrera. Of course, owing to the race win yesterday, Stack starting down in 6th place ahead of this race, so he's automatically gained 3 places now, with still 11 laps to go. And dare I say here, Chris, I mean, he could still be a thorn in the side of the likes of Rui Hengye and Diego Della Torre. Sometimes one win is all it takes for a driver then to really properly kickstart their season.
Can be. We've seen consistency is super important here in the Euroformula Open Championship when you're running, 24 races in a season. Bit of side-by-side further back. Lorenzo Castillo coming under pressure from Cello Hahn, the rookie driver, and Cello dips 2 wheels into the gravel. Open door for Aaron Ferrazzano to go around the outside of the penultimate corner. Now, you can't go around the outside of there, can you? Well, Ferrazzano's made it work. I think he walked it a little bit wide at the exit of the corner, but to the inside then, and did end up making that move work, I think.
Yeah, brilliant over there from Ferrazzano, and they're ever improving their Autosports, obviously, with their one solitary entry this season. As Victor Dobransky now takes the fastest lap of the race, currently tied up behind Famolaro. second in the rookie classification, but has some work to do if he wants to catch up with Javier Herrera, because Dobransky 2.3 seconds away from Famularo, so he's actually one of the few drivers, along with Divi Nandan, to have clean air. Ferrazzano owing to the overtake on Chelo Han, who comes in this weekend, of course hailing from Brazil. He's now got 1.1 seconds of clean aero in front of him, just behind Castillo, which isn't an awful lot, but we're right on board now with Herrera, rookie race leader and leader of the Rookie Championship, who would like to taste overall success once again. Back at Misano Race 1, he got his season off properly, well and truly. Carries a lot of support from family members. Of course, began the start of the season at Portimao. May not have gone to plan, but since then, Spa-Francorchamps was promising. Misano was just straight brilliant for Giuseppe Mazzotti's team at a home race weekend as well. They've still got one more to come, and we head to Monza later on this season in the Temple of Speed for the penultimate round in the championship. So now we watch as Jose Carrasquedo, who's now starting to tail off from Stack now, becoming a little bit more of an opportunity for Javier Herrera to perhaps gain a place, and indeed Herrera swarming all over the back of Carrasquedo's motor park, Dallara 324. So they now exit out of the turn 14 section. Just saw Famularo just whipping the tail out on his BBM Racing, of course brandishing the Venezuelan nation, of course the map of it, essentially on the side pod, or not the side pod as such, but on the side of the car. So you just see there Carrasquedo going very defensive, with now Herrera breathing down his neck. But if Herrera gets a nice run, compromised exit slightly there for Carrasquedo, and he might have left himself on a plate on the run down through towards turn 2. Here comes Herrera as they head down now through towards the next corner apex. Inside line, tighter line there for Carrasquedo as Herrera looks to try and gun it through turn 3. Can't quite find the leverage to get the move done as they now climb the hill through towards turn 4. But definitely signs here that Herrera may yet have an opportunity at a top 4 place.
We know he's got the pace. We showed it yesterday, and has been looking very racy in that BVM Racing car. And Carrasquedo starting to struggle by the looks of it, having been passed by Everett Stack and now coming under pressure from Javier Herrera, who still leads the Rookie Championship. Came here with a 7-point advantage over Victor Dobransky in the rookie standings. 5 times a race winner in the rookie classification, and you can see why, because he has already proven himself to be capable of winning races outright. So following Carrasquedo through these final couple of corners, still Diego Della Torre leads, and that gap has never really been more than 0.6 of a second back to Rui Hengye, but the Chinese Taipei driver struggling to make any meaningful inroads on the race leader. Half race distance then, 9 laps completed, 8 to go here. Della Torre leads him over the line half a second to Rui Hengye, and Herrera having a little duck out the outside there. Now running a little bit wide, in fact, actually into the first corner. I thought for a second he was just trying to get a run towards turn 2, but he's actually lost quite a bit of ground in doing so.
It's actually off in an olive branch, hasn't it, to Carrasquedo, who can now focus again his efforts on Stack to potentially retake that podium place, but it's going to be easier said than done. Chelo Han, who I was actually going to make a point, was purple inside the first sector on the course of this lap, has just picked up the fastest lap of the race, and obviously now on the back of Aaron Ferrazzano, who did manage to overtake Chelo Han. We did, of course, see a mistake made by Chelo not too long ago, but remember, this is his first weekend and his first time racing in the Euroformula Open, let alone driving this car at F3 level, because he comes straight out of Brazilian F4, and not once has he set foot in Europe in terms of racing. This is his first stint of European racing. All his experience, the only experience he's garnered here at Hungaroring is what he's done on the sim. So this is very much a voyage of discovery, a voyage of learning here for this young man, whose father is currently competing in the International GT Open. Christian Hahn racing in the Euroformula back in 2017 to 2019, taking multiple podiums. So he's hoping to follow in his family's footsteps.
Starting to look much closer at the head of the field, isn't it? Della Torre now only a quarter of a second ahead of Rui Hengye, who even managed to force Della Torre to go a little bit defensive into turn 12 on this lap. So Della Torre coming under increasing pressure here, 7 laps to go, and Rui Hengye making his intentions very, very clear as he seeks another race victory. Della Torre been on the podium 5 times so far this season. has yet to stand on the top step. Now, was he a little bit wide there on the exit of the first corner? Because it looked like Rui Hengye had a run.
Oh.
He switches to the inside, locks up his brakes, and I think they just maybe had the merest touch going into turn 2.
That's the second time he's done that at turn 2, Chris. He did it at the very start of the race, but that led to him taking that P2 away from Carrasquedo, but now swarming all over the back of Diego Della Torre, and as the laps start to diminish, tempers are now starting to rise, and indeed, we've got Everett Stack also part of this as we ride on board here with the Virginian. In third place after overtaking Carrasquedo himself, has his mind set on bigger things than just P3, no less. But currently it's Diego Della Torre who's also chasing his first win of the season. Because much like Everett Stack, it would be amazing to see them both rise to the top step in one weekend. Certainly make the championship very spicy. Of course, owing to the victory yesterday, Stack actually leapfrogs Diego Della Torre over P2 in the championship. Well, it could yet swing the other way again if Diego Della Torre was to pick up the big points here this time as they make their way out of turn 12. Turn 13 to come next, and a long straight will come next time. If Rui Hengye can get inside the aero, he'll have a great chance to potentially challenge on the run down through towards turn 1. Let's wait and see if that happens. We've got Diego Della Torre now beckoning through the final corner at turn 14. Everett Stack in the blue Motor Park Dallara 3-2-4. Carrasquedo for company, then further back. They certainly have constrained further forward. This is where the slipstream will pay dividends here for Rui Hengye. He was only 3/10 behind as they cross the line. Will he make a move up the inside? Defensive-minded from Della Torre again. Here comes Carrasquedo with a look on Everett Stack. Nothing doing. Running slightly wide there, Diego Della Torre. This is where Rui Hengye tried a lap before. Looking to the outside now as they come down towards turn 2, switching to the inside just as he did before. Another lock-up there on the front left tyre of Rui Hengye. Surely, how much punishment can those Pirellis take?
He's going to keep finding the same spot, isn't he, on that front left to lock up. It was the smallest of the 3 he's had so far, but surely it's going to become increasingly difficult for him to make the lunge that he seems like he wants to make. It's the second time he's tried to sell the dummy to the inside. I've got shades of Juju Noda and Josh Mason running into each other in that corner.
Well, they did make contact, Chris.
They did absolutely make contact. So Everett Stack still following them in third position. Great view here of the lead battle. Carrasquedo waiting in the wings there as well. Don't count him out for a podium finish. Still anything can happen in these remaining 5.5 laps. There's very little separating these lead cars. 1.8 seconds covers the top 6 as they trip the timing beam at the end of the second sector. Herrera getting a bit of a swapper on coming through turn 12. He's the sole BVM car in this leading quintet. They round the final corner once again, and Rui Hengye not looking quite as close this time to Diego Della Torre with 5 laps to go. And in fact, it's Everett Stack who's looking more the aggressor in this leading pack here. They head down towards turn 1 once again. Again, Carrasquedo to the inside, this time defending rather than attacking, as Javier Herrera piles on the pressure. Up and under from Herrera as he looks to make a move on his countryman. Back down the hill towards turn 2. Carrasquedo defensive again, but Herrera not in a position to really challenge. So Carrasquedo hangs on to the place as they're opening up the taps here, flat out through turn 3. And look at this, Famularo right on the back of his teammate as well. I don't think he'll make a move into turn 4. That would be mighty, mighty brave indeed. And you need a rather compliant rival to make that happen.
This could have all the makings, Chris, of an absolute pure cinema finish here at Budapest. Obviously, we've got a high number of cars now, make that 6 that are in close contention. Dobransky, in fact, is also closing the gap. Remember, he was 2 seconds of the realm away from Famularo not too long ago. Well, he's within a second now, 9/10 actually, to be precise, owing to the fact that all these cars are now squabbling over positions, and Diego Della Torre effectively holding everybody back. Rui Hengye, I saw in the distance as we were riding on board earlier on with Javier Herrera. He was once again, Rui Hengye, trying to swarm all over the back of Della Torre coming through turn 2, seemingly his favourite corner to try and hoodwink the Mexican. Was unable to do so as they now make their way out of turn 13, 14 to come. Again, they're close, half a second between the top 2.
Will it be a 6th different winner this season in the form of Diego Della Torre, or a 6th victory for Rui Hengye? 4 laps to go in the second race of the weekend for the Euroformula Open Championship. The first of our reverse grid races, the BVM squad watching on. Their 2 drivers in 5th and 6th place at the moment, trying to make up the Motor Park Lockhead at the head of the order. Jan Koller randomly doing the fastest lap of the race in 8th position. Goes to show the importance of clean air out there, because he's got a couple of seconds of it at the moment. There's the young Czech driver that we saw spinning it at the start of the race yesterday. So the leaders making their way up towards turn 4 once again. And Diego de la Torre re-establishing the gap. It's back up to very nearly 0.6 of a second now over Rui Hengye.
Yeah, still very, very tight. Anything can happen in the final 4 laps. We know that in the Euroformula Open, folks. We've had it time and time again. Of course, we saw brilliant battles with the likes of Francesco Simonazzi, Oliver Goethe back in 2022 at this circuit, where Francisco opened up the up and under coming out of turn 2 through turn 3. Lighting things up for BVM back then in what was an unbelievable second-place coupe for him. They now dance their way through the right-hander now, heading down the straight towards turn 12. There is the Motor Park Garage watching on pensively, obviously very much aware that 2 of their cars are currently squabbling over the lead spot, with Stack going sideways. They're coming out of turn 12. That looked very, very aggressive coming through. Just looked like he lost the car ever so slightly, somehow kept it pinned, but that could have been oh so much worse than what it turned out to be. And that hands again Carrasquedo and Olive Branch to get a little bit closer to him, as now we see de la Torre fly down across the line. 3 laps to go.
So that's dropped Stack off the back of Rui Hengye a little bit, and that will mean that Rui Hengye can take slightly more open lines potentially and start thinking more about attack rather than defence. Not a dive there from Herrera, but again, nothing doing. That would have been from 7 miles away, wouldn't it, really? So 3 to go, and still de la Torre leads, on course here potentially for his first victory in the Euroformula Open Championship. And people forget, Diego de la Torre didn't do the traditional karting routes. He did not start racing until 2023 in his first year of the North American and Mexican Formula 4 Championship, dipping into Italian F4 competition as well, with Kimi Antonelli's father's team there as well. But all these guys who have spent years of their lives as kids and as teenagers karting, Diego de la Torre didn't do any of that. He came to racing at a much later age. And so now in his sophomore campaign in the Euroformula Open Championship, he took his first podium right at the end of his maiden season. He's been a regular on the rostrum ever since, and he is now just 2 and a bit laps away from his first victory, but he has got the championship leader breathing down his neck.
Of course, arriving second in the championship coming into the weekend. It was 3 second places that he's managed to accrue since the start of the season to this very point as we enter the halfway stage in this season's championship. 5 podiums in total for Diego de la Torre. It's been that level of consistency that has kept him in the running for the Drivers' Championship title. Needs to keep Rui Hengye behind, not just to bring the deficit down from 65 points as it currently stands between Everett Stack and Rui Hengye, but also to throw himself back into second in the championship and garner his first race win of the season, much like Stack did in yesterday's race 1. And he has got Carrasquedo once again for company, with Herrera, who still can't quite pinpoint an opportunity or an opening to move his way inside the top 4. Truly an astonishing race. This is certainly mapped out to be. We're on the penultimate lap of the race right now. 1 more to go after this. And you never know, if Rui Hengye feels like it, maybe he's saving his car, saving his tyres for the opportune moments on the final lap. Remember, this is the highest deg circuit you're going to see on this calendar, so the drivers requiring to be very intelligent around how they perform around this track, though, dare I say, Rui Hengye has used and abused those Pirelli tyres through the lockups that we have seen already coming through turn 2.
I think he's missed his opportunity potentially, but you never know if he can force an error out of Diego de la Torre. But he's been looking very composed in the lead of this race through the middle sector for the penultimate time. Now still half a second ahead of Rui Hengye. Everett Stack just started to fall off the back of the leading duo, about a second back now from Rui Hengye, so he's got to start thinking about protecting his podium. Be back-to-back podium finishes for Everett Stack after winning race 1 yesterday. And look at Carrasquedo, he's much closer to the back of Stack here.
Absolutely, and I dare I say our 2 leaders actually matching in the first sector to the 1,000th, 35.727, and it was a PB in the middle sector for Rui Hengye, so not having any issues at all in that middle sector, and they've actually broken away from Stack, obviously by 1.3 seconds now, so it's now starting to certainly lengthen the gap between Ps2 and 3, and indeed here comes Rui Hengye, knowing that this is the final lap of the race, looking for the run, coming out of turn 1 on the run down through towards turn 2. Not quite the run he would have wanted, but Carrasquillo got a good run, and now he's wheel to wheel with Stack, very close to contact between them as they now make their way down through towards the second corner apex. Carrasquillo was looking for the inside line, but Stack shut the door, wheel spin on the rear tyres as he comes out of the third corner, and now on the run up towards turn 4. Has that compromised his exit? Can Carrasquillo use it? No, not quite. Still remains behind, but only a tenth or so, and this could be an opportunity for Carrasquillo. We still have the heavy braking zone at turn 12 for an overtake to occur. You just simply never know.
Yeah, running out of opportunities, though, is Rui Hengye and indeed, yes, Carrasquillo. Rui Hengye will follow in the wheel tracks of Diego de la Torre all the way to the checkered flag, who's handled this race beautifully, has the Mexican driver at the head of the field. Stack really coming under pressure. Wide goes
Herrera.
Carrasquillo, and that's going to open up the door for Javier Herrera to go around the outside of the flat out turn 10 and take 4th position away from his countryman. So a change of 4th place, that's going to protect Stack's podium there potentially, but 2 corners to go, and Diego de la Torre still cannot shake Rui Hengye off of his tail. If he just gets through here, neat and tidy, through the final corner, only 1 more turn to go, and Diego de la Torre can call himself a race winner in the Euroformula Open Championship. Out of the final corner now, it's a 6th different winner in 2026. Diego de la Torre wins in Budapest. Rui Hengye, 2nd place for the Chinese Taipei driver, and the championship leader, Everett Stack, on the podium once again this weekend. Herrera in 4th, once again matching his race 1 result. The rookie victory once again, his 6th of the season. Carrasquillo in 5th position ahead of Alessandro Famolaro. But a fantastic day for Diego de la Torre. He takes his first victory in the Euroformula Open Championship.
Magnificent performance from Diego de la Torre. Brilliant.
Diego de la Torre takes his first victory in the championship. 0.3 of a second ahead in the end of Rui Hengye, the championship leader, and Everett Stack makes it back-to-back podium finishes in the number 9 team motorbike car. Javier Herrera picks up his 6th victory in the rookie classification and finishes 4th position overall ahead of Carrasquillo, Alessandro Famolaro, Victor Dobransky and Jan Koller, with Lorenzo Castillo and Aaron Ferrazzano completing the top 10. Chalohan and Divi Nandan rounding out your order. Actually some dramas for Divi Nandan, fell off the tail end of the pack somewhere in that race. So it will still be Rui Hengye who leads the championship standings, and actually does extend his championship lead, in fact, by a single point, because Diego de la Torre is now back in 2nd position in the championship. Puts Everett Stack back down to 3rd. Famolaro and Carrasquillo inside the top 5, but Javier Herrera closing those drivers down.
Brilliant result for Diego de la Torre, back into 2nd in the championship. It may have taken a little while, of course, in total. We'll just take a look at the replay of Carrasquillo's wide moment and a lovely opportunistic move from Javier Herrera. We'll see the onboard shot now of this. Of course, it was a compromised run for Carrasquillo. In fact, he was essentially, after taking a wide line, could not follow the racing line because, of course, Herrera had a great run out of the chicane. Nothing wrong with that either, because Herrera was following his correct line, so no harm with that for the BBM driver. Just saw that Diego de la Torre picking up some of the stones from the gravel. But yes, this has been long in the making, with the 3 second places that he's accrued, along with the 2 third places that one of them being obtained at Misano last time out. In his 11th start this season, he finally garners that race win that thrusts him straight back into P2 and very much in this title fight. But of course, we'll still work to do to close up to Rui Hengye. 66 points now, the gap between places 1 and 2 in the championship. And I appreciate we still have plenty of running left to go here in this series. But Rui Hengye proving that he is also just as consistent, with yet another podium against his name here. There's the Chinese Taipei driver, who still stands tall in the top of the championship. He'll be quite happy with the 2nd place, but to a round of applause, Diego de la Torre will remove the wheel from the chassis once again, placing it on top of the car, heave himself out after a very tricky race where mixed conditions did play a factor. Stand tall on the Dallara 3-2-4 and yell, vamos! Diego de la Torre race winner for the first time this season in the Euroformula Open Championship.
Embraces Matthias Gruner, his race engineer. And big celebrations on Diego Della Torre's side of the garage. Conversing with Everett Stack there as well. I was all about the start at that race. Congratulations being offered by Alfredo as he prepares to usher the drivers towards the interview area once they've gone through the necessary post-race weighing procedures and technical checks. The weighing process being done, and we will hear from Diego Della Torre after winning his first race in the Euroformula Open Championship, but not before we get the necessary photos. And there'll be a new profile picture potentially for Diego Della Torre on the Instagram later. There you can see the young Mexican driver from Guadalajara. And remember, did not start racing until 2023 when he went into single-seaters. And now a race winner after 6 podium finishes in his Euroformula career. But it's a second podium of the weekend for Everett Stack, following on from victory yesterday. A third-place finish for him. The championship leader, Rui Hengye, sits in second place for the second time this weekend. But the winner for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship is Diego Della Torre. Let's hear from him.
We are here with a very happy man, Diego Della Torre. At last, this time it worked.
This time we made it happen. I'm really happy for the race. It was a long race, but we made it, so I'm really happy with the hard work we have been doing.
How was the race? Because Hungaroring is always very tricky.
Yeah, it's a really tricky track. You need to be really precise. It's really easy to do something bad, so I was just keeping the focus and just focusing on finishing the race.
And a lot of pressure from behind.
Yeah, it was a lot of pressure. The pack was just right there, so I really need to push and at the same time stay calm, so really happy.
But this time is done, the count is open, and many more will come.
Yeah, many more. This is just the first one. Thank you very much.
Vamos entonces, al grito de guerra.
Highlights from race 2 of the Euroformula Open Championship in Budapest. The first reverse grid race. Jesse Carrasquillo getting a sluggish start from pole position. Diego Della Torre going straight into the lead at turn 1, with Rui Hengye rocketing up the order into third position, but with a big lock-up down into turn 2, and Carrasquillo having to open up the steering wheel and allow Rui Hengye to go through. So a mistake turning into an opportunity there for the Chinese Taipei driver. Everett Stack with a little twitch through turn 11, walking his car wide, but he mounted the pressure on Jesse Carrasquillo for that final spot on the podium. A beautiful up and under at turn 1, gave him the run on the outside line heading towards turn 2, and heavy on the left foot meant that he was able to go around the outside and take third position away from Carrasquillo. He didn't take that line down, tried to come back through at various points, fell away from the leaders in the end. Javier Herrera with a great last lap move, diving on the inside in the middle sector, forcing a mistake out of Carrasquillo and going straight past into fourth position. But Diego Della Torre soaked up the pressure from behind, and after 6 visits to the podium in the championship, for the first time on the top step of the podium, a race winner in the Euroformula Open Championship. And so to the podium then, and Everett Stack, after victory yesterday, stands onto the third step of the podium. Rui Hengye second for the second time this weekend. Diego Della Torre to the top step with the Motorpark representative, and Javier Herrera will once again make an appearance on the podium as the top rookie class driver. Here's the Mexican national anthem. I know we'll be hearing that later on when England face off against Mexico in the World Cup later on tonight. But we will enjoy it for now, because this is a great moment for Diego Della Torre, and of course starting on reverse grid pole for race 3 later on today as well. So he has a wonderful opportunity to go back to back.
Yes, and of course that being his 6th podium of the season, obviously the opportunities are there and plentiful. The trophy will be lifted by the Mexican sensation. Della Torre, winner for the first time this campaign in the Euroformula Open Championship, and Motor Park Lane claim to yet another winnings team trophy. Just how many cabinets have they got back at HQ?
I try to think the budget for their cabinets must be through the roof. It's, Javier Herrera, again, the rookie class winner, just missing out on the podium once again, though. It was due to a penalty yesterday. Today was just struggling to get through the pack, as you often do in Budapest, but still plenty of entertainment on offer thanks to these drivers, and one more race still to come today, the second reverse grid race. We will be live for that one from 10 to 5 local time, and so the drivers will celebrate the race to podium. Certainly Diego Della Torre will, and Everett Statt's going to get involved as well. Good on him. But we'll see you for race 3 later on today.
I think the team of participants down the stay over of as well.